Hi, my name is Carlos Bernal, and I'd like to share a little bit today about being a victim or feeling like a victim, or sometimes we don't even realize that we are acting as a victim. And this is common amongst my clients when they come in and they tell me their story of what's going on. And a lot of what happens underneath is that they're feeling as they've been victimized. They're a victim of circumstances, a victim of what happened, a victim of what was done to them, a victim of what's going on in their life, right? And I can relate. I mean, at 8 years old, I was pulled out of my country of origin. I was taken out of Cuba in the midst of a revolution, of a lot of turmoil, political problems and situations. But in from the perspective of an 8-year-old child, I was taken out of my comfort zone, out of away from my family, away from the grandparents that I loved so much, around the country that I loved so much. And my parents at that time were doing me a favor. They were giving me a new life, a new adventure in the United States. But I perceived it in a different way. I perceived it as a victim. I, I didn't have a choice. I was taken away at that early age. And for many years, I built a story around it, a story that said something like, well, I didn't have what I wanted. I didn't want to be here. And I probably will lose everything again because if I lost something at one point, I'll lose it again. So I'll never be able to have anything. And for many years, that was my belief, and I lived it. And especially in the financial area, that was a big struggle, and it hurt a lot. And it was quite painful to go through it, and not knowing that at the bottom of it was just that feeling of being a victim, of not being able to have a choice at that time, in that moment. I later realized that it was only a perspective. I mean, my parents gave me the most wonderful life ever. You know, coming into the United States, I was given all the opportunities. I mean, this is the land of opportunity, right? And I was given that, but my perspective was so different. And I see that in my clients when they show up to for coaching. I see how that also has an effect in their life when they perceive whatever's going to them or happening to them as victims. And this could be from people that have lost their jobs, or they can't get new clients, or they're going through a hard time in their marriage, or executives that want to move up in the corporate world are struggling to compete with those around them. Or even worse, they've been bypassed by somebody that has been there with less tenure in the company, and they've gotten that position that they so desired. And the common denominator in all these clients that I find is that they all feel victimized. They feel like this is a victim of circumstance. And I guess what I want to share with you today is that victim feeling or victim action, victim reaction, it's all about our perception. And many times I'll ask them if they feel like victim, and they'll say no, because they don't recognize how they're acting and how they're perceiving the circumstances that they're going through as victims. They feel very strong. These people have strong characters. I work with people that are very engaged with life. They're looking for what's next. They're looking for growth. They're looking for change. So to call them a victim, they feel like even offended. And but at the bottom, that's what it is. It's that perception of I didn't have a choice on this, and this is what happened to me. And today I want to share that we go through a victim mode, whether it be on a temporary basis, where we just with, for instance, a mother that's struggling with a kid and saying, you know, I feel that I can't do anything else with my child. He won't respond to what I'm telling you. We can't have good communication. I'm struggling with him in school. And they feel like victims. They feel they can't do anything. That everything that they do backfires. Excuse me. Or an entrepreneur who's saying it's, you know, just the economy is so bad and things are going so slow, and I'm not getting new clients, and I can't make new sales. And once again, that victim mentality comes out, right? That I can't. And it's usually when we start hearing those phrases is when we recognize from where we're coming from. You know, an executive that has been bypassed by somebody that has less tenure than they do in a corporation may feel like they've been victimized, and it says, I can't believe that this is happening with all the time that I've put in. I can't believe that they bypassed me. And just in the words, you could tell that they feel like a victim. And once again, it's all about perception. And when we feel like we don't have a choice, like whatever has happened to us, it's something that we don't have a say in, or we can't react in any other way because this is the only choice I have, then we have that feeling of being victimized, and we usually react from there. We show up in the world as victims, and you know, people that have excessive uh, energy of being a victim, they get into depression. They go into depression because it's lethargy is what causes it. There's no movement, there's no action, there's nothing I can do. Or the opposite, right? I have done everything. And I always challenge my clients when they say that. It goes, have you really done everything? And usually the answer comes back, of course not. It's impossible for us to have done everything. And the reality is that it just boils down to that perception that we have about what has happened is what needs to change. It's what needs to be brought in and say, okay, this is something that happened, is circumstances of life that we all go through. What am I going to do about it? And open up to the possibilities instead of shutting down to the impossibilities, shutting down to what it's not under my control, and expanding your mind to saying, okay, what's the lesson behind this? What am I learning from this? What's going on around me that will benefit from me taking the next steps, the next action, whether it be in your family or whether it be at work. It really doesn't matter. It has to do a lot with what are you doing with that perception that you have. If you're sticking to it, if you're just relying on that's the truth and there's nothing you can do about it, that's the first sign that you're being a victim, that you're acting as a victim. So sometimes what helps a lot is the questions. It's not so much the why question. Every time we go into the why questions, the answers that come back to us really tend to be very negative. If we ask, why did I get bypassed on this promotion? Usually what's going to come back is you're not good enough, you were rejected, you're not liked, and it's all this negativity of the why things happen. Why did my child get sick? And we start questioning, did I do something wrong? Wasn't I always helpful? Wasn't I always there for them? And there's always this sense of guilt that will overcome us when we ask those why questions. The more powerful questions are the ones that we go, what do I do now? What's in store for me now? What are the possibilities? How far can I go? How far can I reach now in the midst of these circumstances of what's going on? And when we start doing that mind change, it puts us into action. And as soon as we get into action, we get out of victim mode. Normally, victim mode helps us stay in the comfort zone, in that zone where we feel that we need to be in order to be recognized, to be acknowledged, and that's why we're doing it. A lot of times we use the circumstances around us in a way that will help us to get what we want, but in a very negative way. So if we're looking for attention, obviously losing your job and then coming and crying to everybody that you lost your job, it's a good way to get attention. If you're instead looking for work and looking for what's happening, what's opening, what's a new adventure I have in the corporate field or in the entrepreneur arena, or it's incredible what happens. I have a client that for a long time he's been a coach, and he's been working as a consultant for many large corporations. And when he told me his story of how he got there was that he was laid off from his corporate job, and which he was very good at. He felt very good at and very comfortable in, and he would have never imagined to step out into the consulting coaching world. He could never imagine having coached people at the level he coaches now had he stayed in the position he's in. But he asked the right question. He asked the questions, so what's in store for me now? What do I do? How do I move forward? How do I get clients that could use my help? And for a long time, even when he started working with me, he still had doubts whether he was going to stay full time as a coach and a consultant, because he had in the back of his mind at some point going to the corporate world. And once again, it's because something was done to him. He felt like a victim. It's just his perception changed, and he started looking at things as there's a world of opportunities out there, and I want to take advantage of it. Right now, he's a very successful coach, making a very good living consulting and working for Fortune 500 companies. And I could tell you story after story like that about clients that break through the victim mode and start realizing that there's more to life than just feeling sorry for oneself, but that there is an adventure to every circumstances that we go through, that life has a way of benefiting or promoting and giving to those that are willing to bypass the victim mode and get into the action mode. And we do that once again by asking the right questions. How do I learn? What do I learn from this experience? What has life taught me, and how do I do it? I had to do it at one point. At one point, I had to sit down and say, okay, instead of feeling like the child that was victimized and taken out of his country, what has the world offered me at this point? I mean, I've traveled the world. I've been all over. I have speaking engagement in different parts of the world. I recently came back from Canada with a group of extremely successful salespeople that I enjoyed so much. I would have missed that completely. Who knows what my life would have been had I remained not only in Cuba, I'm not talking about that, remain a victim of knowing I can't do anything. I was ripped out of what I had. And it's once again is changing that frame of mind and saying the world has so much to offer. God has an opportunity for me, and I'm going to take advantage of it. I'm not going to waste it. I'm not going to sit here and moan about my problems and my situation. By the way, in any of this, I'm not talking about that there aren't real problems, that there aren't real circumstances. That's not the case. It's in front of those real circumstances. It's going beyond them. It's actually accepting them and saying, yeah, life is hard and sometimes it hurts, and it's what am I going to do in spite of what's going on, in spite of what happened to me or what was done to me? How am I going to take that and use it as an advantage and move forward and help others in the process even? That's what happened to me. By acknowledging, by doing my inner work, by finding out, what God's plan was for me here in the United States and now in Mexico and in different parts of the world where I've been, I've realized that God has such a bigger plans for me. And that gives me hope. That gives me that sense of feeling that anything is possible and I can do anything as long as I don't stay a victim, as long as I get out of that mode. By the way, you can stay in that mode for a day, you can stay a week, you can stay a lifetime. It's up to you. It's a choice. That you have a choice. You may not have had a choice when the circumstances that you're going through may have happened, but now you have a choice of what to do with it. How are you going to react to it? What your thought pattern is going to be about it? Is it going to be negativity, or is it going to be positive thinking and moving forward and seeing what God has in store for you? It's up to us. It's not up to anybody else. That's where we stop being a victim. When we take responsibility and say, no, this is what I'm going through, I can change. I can make other things happen. I can make it better. And probably in the circumstances you're in might be the worst time to think about it, right? Because when we're going through the problem, it's very hard. Sometimes that's why we need help. And in my experience, that's what happened to me. I turned to reading, I turned to my spiritual world, to my Catholic faith, where I got so much help from. I turned to being genuinely growing from inside out, and that's what helped me move forward. Do I have circumstances now where I feel like a victim or feel, of course, we all do. Life is hard. Life sometimes deals tough stuff for us. And in every one of them, we could take advantage of it and we can look for the positive in it and make the best of it. Sometimes we need help, yes. And it's up to you whether you want to stay feeling a victim or staying without doing anything, or it's up to you to actually pick up and say, okay, what's my next step? How do I get out of this circumstances? You might feel a victim right now where you're sitting as an executive, the job that you have, the marriage, the family. It could be in any circumstance. It's up to you to do something. It's up to you to change that perspective and start moving forward. That's what's going to give you the hope. That's what's going to give you the life that you want. It's not thinking this is the end. I have no choice. And by the way, I get a lot of, yeah, JC, that's nice for you to say, but you don't know what I'm going through. No, probably not. I don't. But we can talk about it. So if this video has helped you and you want to reach out, have a conversation, I'll be glad to do that with you. Just let me know, shoot me an email, and be in touch, and we can move you forward. We can get you into that life that you're looking for. And I'm not talking about whether it be money or whether it be relationship. It doesn't matter. Each one of us is looking for a place in our life where we want to do better. And by the way, when I'm talking about having a conversation, I'm talking about a coaching conversation where we could really get engaged and really go deep into what's going on. And I know if you're ready to do that, you're going to do it, because I only work with people that really have challenging things that they're looking forward to moving into the next level. That's what I love. That's what I do. So once again, shoot me an email. Let's be in touch, and I look forward to talking to you. Once again, my name is Juan Carlos, and thank you for showing up and for spending this time with me.